Hello everyone, it's Karen here from tuppenscolour.co.uk. Thank you for joining me today. Today's project is this little holder for a gift card. When you open it up, there's a space inside where you can put your gift card, and it just presents the card I think in a rather neat and cunning way. Very easy to do, very straightforward, so stick with me and I'll show you how I made it. Okay, so this design is based on something that I saw Susanna Jepson demonstrate on British Craft Network. So this is my take on it. So I've cut a piece of card, and this is basic black, and it's 3 3/4 by 10 inches, and I'm going to score it at 1 1/4 and at 6 inches, and that's going to be the outside cover of my card. But while I've got my scoreboard out, we'll do the inside as well, and I'm scoring that at, let me just check, this is 2 3/4 by 5 7/8 of an inch, and I'm scoring again at 1 1/4 and at 5 3/8. So that's half an inch at that end, right? So we can put away the scoreboard, and while I've got this piece in front of me, at the top of my piece where I've got the 1 1/4 inch from the top, I'm going to stamp, and I've got my basic black archival stamping pad, which is very new, and I've put the words happy birthday, which is from the stamp set which has disappeared, which is, here it is, it's the Crazy About You stamp set, which is an absolutely fabulous one, and there's a companion die set as well, which you can get as a bundle and save 15%, which we always like to do. So I've got happy birthday set up on my block, and I want this to be quite near the top of the card because I wanted to show when the card's opened. There we go. So that'll do for now. And while I've got my stamp pad out, this is real red, and this is a heart which I've cut with the Sweetheart punch. Again, it's real red, and from the same stamp set, whoops, it's making a bid for freedom, I've got the word for, and I'm going to stamp that onto the heart quite near to the top. So I'm trying to do this without getting my head in the shot. So yeah, I think that'll do. Yeah, and now I can put away my archival ink because I'm not going to need that again. I can put those on one side, and I can burnish my creases. With that one I've burnished, I'm going to open it up again, and I've got my stapler, and I'm going to staple very, very close to the edge, just so it makes a little pocket. You could, if you wanted, use tape, but it would need to be narrow tape, and you'd need to be very, very careful that you left enough space in there for whatever gift card or whatever you were going to be putting in there to slide inside. Okay, back to my bit of basic black, and I'm going to, oops, get that the right way around, I'm going to fold and burnish so that it makes the wallet shape, and again with my stapler I'm going to staple down those edges so that is sitting there. Oops. Stapler malfunction, excuse me. Right. Okay, now's a good time to show you how the staples in the Stampin' Up stapler fit in. So, got a staple jam, so I'll just clear those out of the way. There we go, that's better. And we're back in business. Sorry about that. Okay. So that's now stapled up. And one more thing before I leave this, is make sure that that is nice and straight, because it doesn't look like it at the moment. Let's burnish that down. And one more thing before I leave this, I've got a corner rounder punch here. This is an X one, but Stampin' Up do a very nice one as well. And I'm going to round off the corners because I like the sort of finished edge it gives me. Okay, so now we've got to embellish that up. Susanna's version of this card, which is the one that I saw demonstrated, made a very clever little closure, which is done with our envelope punch board. It's by cutting those little little divots, I suppose, into the card, so that then you can close the card by slipping that in there, or you can do it, which is the one I personally prefer, is that way around. But I'm not demonstrating that one today. I'm going to put that one on one side. Because that's not what we're going to be doing today. Today we are going to be closing up using magnets. So I want to put the magnets in place before I decorate the front of the card, because that's going to be easier for me to do. So I have these teeny tiny little magnets, and they are very, very small, but they are very, very strong. Then they're called neodymium magnets, and they will, we can see that they're quite fun to play with actually, but these are very, very fine. They are 0.5 millimeter in width, so they're very, very fine, but for their size they are very, very strong, so you need to be a bit careful with them. If you were giving this to a child, I wouldn't use magnets as a closure. I would probably use Velcro dots, or the method that I just showed you, or possibly even a belly band. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my mini glue dots. I'm going to put the dot on the first magnet. And I'm going to center that just a little way in from the side on the lower flap. Okay. Right, now they want to stick together, because that's what magnets do. They want to stick together. Whoops, they've come apart. And so that is the way that I want my magnet to go. So again, I'm going to stick that on top, and now those magnets are nicely in place. And I'm going to cover them. I'm going to cover the top one because it will show a little bit, with a 1/2 inch circle of black card. Now I think that one, just going to check, I think that one will be covered, yes it will, by the paper that's going to go on the bottom. So I'm not going to put anything on top of that one, and I'm just going to find my snail. Where is my snail? There it is. I love it when I'm well prepared, don't you? And I'm going to put the snail on the back of this piece of paper, which is from our Timeless Elegance DSP, and I absolutely love it. Let's get that out of the way. So I'm positioning this so that it covers up the magnet, and also so that it covers up the staples, so you can't see the join, as they used to say. And same thing for the top part, except I've rounded the corners on this piece with the same corner rounder. Make sure I put the snail on the back of the lot, and bring that in, center it, and it's going right over the magnet and right over the piece of card that's on top of the magnet, and you can barely see it. If you know where to look, you can just about see it, but otherwise it's not there. I love this paper. I think this is so elegant. Okay, now for the inside of the card, we're bringing the real red piece that we've already done, and I'm going to slide this inside the flap so that the edge of the card is level with the fold. Make sure that I can still fold it, and I can. And with my piece of tear and tape across the top there, and I'm just going to close and if I've done this right, when I open up, yes indeed, my slider pops up and I can put my gift card in there. It's a very nice present for somebody, but that one's already been used, so nobody's getting that one. And that closes up nice and neatly, open and close. Okay, so it's looking a bit bare in front, so now we're going to embellish it. This is a piece of craft foam. Sometimes it's called fun foam, sometimes it's called funky foam. You find it in the craft shop, quite often in the children's crafts department. It's very inexpensive. It comes in all sorts of colours, including white. This is called pale brown, and it's near enough to the kind of crumb cake, Sahara sandy sort of colours that I think I can use it without, without needing to colour it in any way. If you get the white fun foam, then you can colour that with either by pressing it into the surface of your stamp pad or by going over it with markers. I would recommend using alcohol-based markers, like our old Blendabilities if you still have those, or Spectrum Noirs, Copics, what's the other one? Pro markers, any of those, because if you do use the water-based ones like our Stampin' markers, then they take an awful long time to dry, and I'm not 100% convinced that they ever do completely dry. So if you use those, I would use them, shrink it, and then I would seal the top of the piece with something like a Mod Podge or a craft sealer of some kind. So that's what I'm going to be using. I've also got down my glass mat on top of my cutting mat, and on top of my glass mat I've got a silicone mat, which is one from the kitchen store, because this uses heat and I do not want to spoil my cutting mat. I've had it quite a while, but there's still a lot of life in it. I've die cut my fun foam, my craft foam, with this die set, which is Hello You Thinlets, and I've cut out the word U, and I've got my heat gun plugged in and ready. This kind of heat gun is one of the gentler ones on the market. I have another one which is really quite fierce, and when I tried using that on the craft foam, I really had to pay attention, because if I got a little bit too close for it or I left it on a little bit too long, it just all shriveled up and it wasn't pretty. The one that Stampin'Up sells has 2 speeds, and I would recommend using the slower speed, the cooler speed. So I'm now going to start heating this. I'm going to hold it down with my kebab stick, and I'm going to stop talking, because even though this is one of the quieter heat guns on the market, it still makes a bit of a noise. So it's probably going to go silent because I'm going to turn the sound down, and I'll speak to you in a little while. Okay, so I pressed down on the top of it with something flat so that I flattened it all out. That's pretty much as small as it's going to get, and if I compare it to the original, you can see that it's shrunk quite a bit. It's also darkened in colour somewhat, and it's also a bit firmer than the original. So that's my embellishment made, and all I've got to do now is make use of it on my project. So here are the bits for the embellishment on the front of my slider card. I've got a 2 3/4 inch scallop circle which I've cut out of basic black, a 2-inch circle out of Very Vanilla, and I've just taken a sponge dauber and my Sahara Sand stamping pad, and I've just tipped round the edge just very, very lightly, just to give it that kind of old distressed look. And I've done the same thing on the heart, which I cut out of Real Red with the Sweetheart punch, and I've just tipped around the edge of that just to finish it off a little bit. And I've got the U, which I die cut out of the craft foam and shrunk, which I showed you earlier. So now I'm just going to put those bits together, and let me see, how am I going to do it? Right, okay. We'll put some snail on the back of the Very Vanilla, and we'll put that onto our basic black very carefully. And can you just see how just having that little bit of that little bit of Sahara Sand around there just lifts it a little bit. And for this piece we're going to use some dimensionals, I think. Yes, we are. So we're going to lift this up on dimensionals, but before we do that, I'm bringing in the new fine tip glue pen, which is absolutely brilliant. Now I wouldn't try to use anything really heavy with this, but just going to put a little spot there and a little spot there. Yeah, not too much, because this is just barely touching. And that, clear away there. And that just sits on top, just like that. And we'll put a dimensional on the back, just the one, just to hold that up. Just center that in place, and a couple more dimensionals on the back. There we go. And whoops, that's wiggled. So ideally I should have left that to dry. But, so don't do what I do what I tell you. And we'll pop that onto the front of the gift slider. Okay, I'm just going to put the top back on the fine tip glue. There's a needle in the cap. Can you see that? I'll bring that in just about. There we go. And when you're putting the white cap back on, you need to make sure that it fits into the hole in the nozzle, just like that. Because that will help keep, it will stop the glue from setting in the nozzle, which means that you won't be faced with with a needle trying to poke bits out. And the other thing to remember about this is you need to store it standing up, because you don't want the glue leaking out all over everything. Okay, so we're nearly done now. So the last thing to do is to put on a bow, which we have cut, which I have pre-tied with my Real Red cotton ribbon, and I've pre-tied it because I'm not setting myself up to fail by trying to cut it when I'm videoing. Stop trying to tie it when I'm videoing. So I can't even talk. Oh dear. It's one of those days today. I've let you into a secret, because this morning my other half, my husband, and I just took a dance exam. So all morning I've been paso dobleing like a thing possessed. So I really don't know which end of me is up at the moment. I don't know whether I'm on my brass or my oboe, as we used to say when I was in the school orchestra. Sorry about that. Okay. And there we are. So here's the finished article, and if I bring in my prototype, you can see that they look very different, even though they're made pretty much in the same way. This one was made using Farmers Market DSP and with Blackberry Bliss card and Old Olive card, and I coloured the cutout, the die cut, with Blackberry Bliss Stampin' markers. Had to think for a minute what I'd used. As you can see, the different closure method, but both work in the same way. When you open up the inside, there's a space for you to put a gift card. You could also adapt this, I think, for party invitations, because that would be rather cool. You know, when you open that up, inside there's a little party invitation. That would be rather fun. I hope you've enjoyed this project anyway. If you want to find out more about me and more about the project, the things I've used, or link to my blog where I will put the measurements for these projects, then please, by all means, do check out the more information box below the video. But that's it for now. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.